So on October 5th of this year, Scream Factory is releasing the first 5 Halloween films, all remastered with 4K scans from the original camera negatives on Ultra HD 4K. Now, obviously, on this video alone, I am just covering the very first film from John Carpenter. It was the only one I picked up at this point in time, but hopefully I'll be able to pick up at least a couple of the other ones as the month goes on. But right now we're focusing on this one, which is kind of an interesting thing. When I picked this up, I didn't really realize exactly how they packaged it, because obviously there was going to be a slipcase, but it's a much more of a sturdy, hard back type of thing that slips in out here, almost like a box set type of thing. So you can kind of see how it all kind of is a little thicker than it usually would be, but obviously the interior case has a reversible slipcover with the original poster art for John Carpenter's Halloween. And it is a 3-disc set. Obviously, one disc has the Ultra 4K Blu-ray. The second disc has the new transfer on a regular standard 1080p Blu-ray. Then you have the third disc, which has the 2007 original Blu-ray transfer. I think it was mastered from the old Divimax DVD master, stuff like that. And it includes some other things on there where they have the extended TV cut, which I think they integrated the standard def TV widescreen footage in with the new transfer. So you've got the old 2007 transfer on that disc, but also the TV version doesn't do like a seamless branching or anything like that. It just kind of puts both HD versions on the whole thing with the standard def inserts for the extended cut. So I'm not sure exactly how well that turns out with the bit rates on that disc. But little other things to kind of talk about in that regard. But this one carries over a couple of different commentary tracks and also has a new Dolby Atmos soundtrack along with the original mono mix. Now, there's been kind of things where, like the 5.1 remix that was done years ago, kind of mixed down into just like a regular like 2.0 track or something like that. That was not the original mono mix. This one actually apparently is, and there's a lot of things you can really tell that it is much more like they took the original track and put it on the disc, because apparently the previous soundtracks they put on the DVDs and the Blu-rays have been kind of filtered to a certain degree when you compare it back to people like had the old Criterion Laserdisc, which had a much less tinkered with audio. Apparently, like the stuff that's gone on DVD and Blu-ray has been a little bit kind of filtered, so there's a little weird type of quality in it. This one sounds much fuller. It's a much better thing overall. And just getting into talking about just like the sound on the whole thing, before I even get to the picture, the sound is really good. Just like I was flipping back and forth between the mono, the 5.1, and the new Dolby Atmos, where I don't have an Atmos setup, but I do have a 5.1 Sony receiver, which can downmix that into the 5-channel speaker setup that I have, and it sounded really good. The mono mix and the Atmos mix, which is obviously like there's a lot more speakers and stuff going on with the Atmos, but in terms of like the dynamic range and the levels and stuff like that, they're very, very similar in that regard. When you go into the 5.1 mix, it sounds a lot weaker, a lot quieter in some moments. Some of the sound effects and some of the dialogue, it doesn't come off as strongly. The Atmos one is really bright, especially when you listen to the soundtrack, the music John Carpenter put together for this film. It just sounds bright. It sounds very detailed. You can hear just it come alive in a little bit of a more particular fashion than you ever heard before. And obviously, again, talking about the mono mix, comes out very brightly as well. There's a very good sound dynamic to the entire thing that I think which is the default option when you put the disc in. So if you want to listen to it in another one of the soundtracks, you have to go into the menu and change your option. But the default one is the original mono mix, which still is very, very good. So it's like it just came off very well. And when just mainly listening to the Atmos one downmixed into my setup here, doesn't have a whole lot of, like, Halloween doesn't have a lot of spatial things going on and weird sort of things going on throughout the sound effects and panning stuff and weird things with the sound design. The most you got was like at the beginning of the film when you got Dr. Loomis and Marion Chambers. They're driving up the Smiths Grove. You got the sound of the rainstorm and everything going on. That was lively as hell with the Atmos. And like I said, all the music came together so beautifully in this mix. Really good job they put together this whole thing. So this is indicative of what they went through for the next 4 films in the franchise. You're in for some good stuff. Now, obviously, getting up to the transfer here, because we have had a previous 4K release, which I do not own, so I don't have anywhere to source for anything like that, and I can't rip Ultra HD discs. But regardless of that, we had a previous one from Lionsgate, which apparently a lot of people are saying was done from the interpositive. This is sourced from the original camera negative, so you're a bit one step back from that, so you get a higher point of resolution with film grain and detail, stuff like that. And it was supervised with the color grading by cinematographer Dean Cundy. So everything comes off in a very interesting fashion. You look at the 2007 one, it doesn't look very good in my opinion. Just like one, the encoding, the detail, all that type of stuff, it's really, really poor. It's not a good master. It's very orange and stuff like that, and very yellowy. It doesn't have a good balance or doesn't have good detail. I found it looking very, very lackluster, very unsubstantial. We go to the one they did for 35th Anniversary Blu-ray. It is a good one. It's a muted color tone, and things are a little bit dim here and there. It's not very bright in some places, but if that is same thing that Lionsgate used as the basis for the 4K one they put out, seems like they probably did. Some of the comparison shots I've seen kind of feel like they're about that way, with maybe some other things done with HDR and stuff like that here and there. They kind of tweak it here and there, but looking at this version, even just from the regular 1080p 4K master they put on the second disc, it's just, there's just no question whatsoever about the whole thing. The entire transfer just looks, detail-wise, very, very clean, especially in like the daylight scenes where there's a lot of light. Scenes where there's a lot of light, you can see a lot of very particular detail, but the color alone on this thing, even though Halloween is still a very muted tone type of film, it just feels more natural. It's not just kind of this blanket sort of ashy, sort of tan type of quality or beige type of quality they kind of put over a lot of different scenes. Just like all the daylight scenes, everything just has a little bit more nuance in the flesh tones and various other things like the greenery, which obviously was shot in California, trying to double itself for the Midwest, but you got a lot of lush greenery and stuff like that, so it's a little bit of an uptick in color, a little bit more dynamics in the color range and how things go along. And of course, all the blue gels that Dean Cundy used in those nighttime sequences to give the atmosphere in the entire film really come off very naturally, very, very good. Nothing's drained out like it had with the old Divimax Master, where they kind of futz with the colors a little too much and kind of drained out that signature look he actually shot the whole film with. This one kind of definitely preserves that. And so it's the interesting type of things like the contrast and the brightness shows through so much in a lot of places. Just like, especially again in the darker scenes, in the nighttime scenes, you can just see that it's just more brighter. It's a little bit more accurate in its colors and stuff like that. When you see those scenes, they come out a lot more naturally overall. Just everything just comes off just very pleasing, just very, very much on the level. I just think this is definitely probably exactly the way they wanted the film to look. A lot of things in how John Carpenter looked, how he photographed his films, how Dean Cundy lit a lot of different things. It feels very accurate to probably what the film was supposed to look like all the way back in '78. Obviously looking better than ever now in this entire new digital restoration, stuff like that. It just comes off very, very well. The detail in the whole film doesn't come through as much with the darker lit scenes because there's obviously not that much to really kind of see. They kind of bring out little things here and there, but when you got certain very well lit scenes, like you have all the stuff in the daylight where you got Nancy Loomis and PJ Soles and Jamie Lee Curtis all walking home from school, all that stuff really comes off very well, just so you can see all that quality coming up. And just little things here and there. There are some things in the darker scenes, the nighttime scenes, that do pop out here and there. And it's like so much like all these early far-off shots you have of Michael Myers. You can see so much more of the mask when you're shooting it from 20 yards away. It's just little thing on screen, but you can see so much more detail, whether he's driving a car or stuff like that. He's down the sidewalk. All these little things just add more and more to the film as you get more resolution. It just comes out so much better. So it's like I thought all this stuff really came off really way well. And of course you got to carry over pretty much everything you had from all the previous sets. All the commentary tracks with Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter and stuff with Dean Cundy and Timothy Wallace and stuff like that. Got those commentaries both on the Ultra HD disc and the new remastered 1080p disc. You got all the Horror's Hallowed Grounds and all the documentaries, all the little featurettes and the trailers, stuff like that. And like I said, there is the extended TV cut, but I had to go off and check, and they are still missing the title card that's supposed to pop up when you go into the first additional scene, which is supposed to say May 1964, Smiths Grove, Illinois. It's completely missing. It's still missing. It was missing on the box set. It was missing before from Anchor Bay Entertainment. I think I haven't seen it properly, probably since it was like VHS or something like that. They just haven't corrected that error. I don't know why they haven't just corrected that error. All you gotta do is go up and type it up with the font, which is a readily available font. You can find it pretty much anywhere. White text on a black screen, and you can just recreate it without any problem. You don't have to go over and try to find the footage again. You can just recreate the title card. So it's a little bit of a stinging point in that regard, where again, they seem to have gone back and reintegrated that footage into the new master, but they didn't fix the problem with that title card, so it's a little bit of an irksome type of thing that should have been fixed. Someone should have been aware of it and fixed it. It probably would have taken them 10 seconds. But they didn't do it, and that's a bit of a thing that sticks me, because again, I went back and looked at it on the collector's edition deluxe box set, and it was from the 2007 transfer, I believe, and they intercut the exact same footage without the title card. So it's kind of just bothersome little thing, but most people probably aren't going to off to really watch the extended cut on any real regular basis. They're mainly going to be going and watching the 4K version. That's the premier thing on this set. And I think from every comparison I've seen, every comparison I'm showing here in this video, it is a definite upgrade in terms of the clarity, the brightness, contrast, and just the nuance of the colors overall. I just think everything just looks just a little bit better. The flesh tones are better. The blues are stronger. They get a little bit of that yellowy tint kind of moved a little bit out of the film, a little bit of the green tint slightly adjusted out of it, and get a little bit more overall natural thing without betraying the muted tone of the entire film, because there's a little bit more, things are just a little bit more saturated, just a few ticks up. Things just look a little bit more vibrant in some places, but not like it doesn't turn into like a Guillermo del Toro film, where it's like bursting with color anywhere. There's just little tweaks here and there that I think just makes the film look just a little bit better here. But it's not one of those films that's going to be like a major thing with the Dolby Vision or the HDR10 that's on the disc that's going to make it look like freaking a Dario Argento film or something like that. It's going to give you the most probably with a little bit of the color, a little bit of the contrast stuff like that here and there. So it's just going to enhance just a little bit extra on top of that. From the stills you're seeing, it's going to enhance it just a tad bit more. So they really went in, just did a little extra things with the colors to make them kind of bring them up a little bit more, make them a little bit more varied. I think it's a very good piece of work. After I've watched this thing plenty of times in HD, I think there's a good uptick from at least the 35th Anniversary Blu-ray transfer. This really works well, and if you're pretty familiar with the Lionsgate one, I'd like to hear your comments about how you thought that one looked versus the way I'm showing this one off here. Or if you already grabbed the disc, let me know how things are compared here and there. But it's going to be very interesting whenever I can get to the other films, because they're definitely going to have very interesting, especially like Halloween 4, Halloween 5, which have been stuck with like the very old dated transfers here and there. Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 did get those Steelbook 4K remasters a few years ago. But little things here and there, from what I'm hearing, they've done some additional work on this. Maybe they are new, fresh scans. Maybe they weren't from the original camera negatives. There's been little debates here and there about exactly where the 2018 Steelbook scans exactly came from, but I've been hearing that there is some shifts and changes done in terms of the presentation of 2 and 3. So hopefully I'll get around to those in due time, but guys, I wanted to at least get this out here because got to release a little bit early for some retailers. Brick and mortar stores kind of got to put them out on the shelves a little bit early as the stock came in ahead of time and stuff like that, and there's at least enough of demand for it. I canceled my Amazon pre-order and picked it up at Best Buy, so really kind of good thing there. So kind of look around. If you're still a little bit ahead of the actual release date, still look around, but check up on your prices here and there, see what you need to price match or stuff like that. Regardless, let me know your thoughts. If you checked out the disc already, what do you feel about it overall? Some people really kind of do like the 2007 one, but there's been a lot of, even from the earliest DVD releases, like from Anchor Bay and stuff like that, moving on, different transfers, doing stuff here and there with colors shifting around in different places. A lot of people say like the Criterion Laserdisc was probably the most kind of faithful one to the original theatrical presentation, but that's 40 plus years gone unless you find a real old print that's been preserved extremely well. Know exactly how it looked theatrically. A little bit of thing to debate there in regards. But guys, let me know what you think about John Carpenter's Halloween on Scream Factory 4K Ultra HD. And I'll be back with hopefully some other stuff soon. I do have some other regular movie reviews to get out to you guys, and hopefully we'll get some other things going out on the channel in the short period of time here. So guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.